Let's look at the basic principles of fires in shopping malls. Now, smoke from a fire in a shop rises in a plume to the ceiling. And as it rises, air is entrained into it, increasing the volume of smoke and reducing its temperature. Now, the smoke spreads out underneath the ceiling and forms a layer which deepens as the shop begins to fill with smoke. As the layer deepens, there is less height for the plume of smoke to rise before it reaches the smoke layer. Less air is being entrained at this point, with the result that the temperature is higher on reaching the smoke layer. So as the smoke layer comes down, there's less air coming in. Less air coming in means there's less air to dilute the temperature. In other words, it starts to get hotter again. As this continues, the increasing smoke layer temperature at some time will operate the sprinklers. The fire may shatter the shop front glazing if present, unless it's fire resistant. So, as it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, the sprinklers pop and the glazing may shatter. The smoke will then flow out of the shop into the mall. Now, the change of direction as the smoke flows out of the shop front results in increased mixing with the surrounding air. Now, there's so much mixing that except close to the fire itself, the hot smoky gases can be regarded as consistently of warmed air when calculating the flow. It's nearly all air. Smoke is nearly all air, but it's warmed air. It's very, very hot with smoke particles. Now, the quantity of smoke particles and hence the optical density and the visibility through these smoky gases produced in a fire will depend strongly on the nature of the burning materials. Plastics give off a lot of thick, black, nauseous smoke. So if plastics are involved, the visibility is going to be lower and it's going to be more toxic. Now, the quantity of hot gases carrying these particles is, however, mainly dependent on the fire size, and this is usually specified in terms of convective heat release rates. So the amount of smoke given off is generally on the fire size, which you have to determine. Increasing the visibility through these gases requires their dilution with clean air, but improving visibility and therefore reducing the toxicity by dilution alone in a mall to safe levels after smoke has entered is not a practical proposition. So we said before, you can dilute it, not going to work in a shopping mall generally, very unlikely to work. In other words, you can't do it that way, you've got to extract it. Now, one suggested safe level of visibility is 10 metres. That's an acceptable general distance. If people can see 10 metres, they will travel through that. However, this would require the hot smoky gases to be diluted by a mass ratio possibly larger than 300, even after the gases leave the shop of origin. We mentioned figures earlier, 1,000 to 1, but even after leaving the shop, that amount of smoke, you've got to pump in enough air, 300 times the volume of that smoke into that well, if you want to try and achieve these levels of visibility. It follows then that hot gases should always be kept spatially separated from escaping people. That's the secret. Don't let it go down that low. Now, smoke flowing from the shop onto the mall will rise to the mall ceiling, and here it will mix with air as it rises. It'll come up the spill edge, it will rise. If no smoke control measures are present, the hot gases will then flow along the mall as a ceiling layer at a speed typically between 1 to 2 metres a second. Now, this is a problem as it's generally faster than the probable escape speed of pedestrians in a crowded mall. Now, when the smoke reaches the end of a closed mall, for example, if it reaches the end of it, it's going to start to dip down to a lower level and be drawn back towards the fire. So once it reaches the end, it hits the back, comes back, drops and starts to come back. Now, if the end of the mall is open, even light winds blowing into it or across it will cause severe local disturbance and mixing, and once again, at low level, we draw back in. So even if you see when it's open, the smoke is going out of it, any wind coming back in will just blow it back in again. Yeah, or it causes enough disturbance to start to make it come back in again. Therefore, a single-storey mall could become smoke logged within minutes, and indeed there have been cases where malls over 100 metres long have become smoke logged in under 1 minute. Now, that's in case of fire in a mall over 100 metres have become smoke logged in just 1 minute. And similarly, short times can be expected to apply to the upper floors of a multi-storey mall. So even upper floors, if you're not extracting it, the upper floors can be smoke logged in a minute, 2 minutes, quickly. Now, since it's not usually practical to prevent smoke entering the mall, except for larger shops, a mall smoke control system is necessary to control and remove the heat and the smoke.